Welcome to the webinar today. Today we are going to be talking about being proactive in life in general, I guess, but as it relates to your pronunciation and fluency. And I have a few thoughts I was thinking of as I was trying to go to sleep actually the other night. I got thinking about this because of a book that I'm reading, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we get started. But for those of you who if this is the first time listening to or attending my webinars, my name is Annie Rudin, and I am an English pronunciation and fluency trainer. My background is in speech-language pathology and have a master's in communication sciences and disorders. So I've had, and over the last, since 2008, I've been focused on accent reduction or English pronunciation training. And it's been my passion. It's been I just absolutely love it. And it's been fun to be able to teach online, and it gives me the flexibility to be with my family as much as I can. So this is my little bit of my little family. I have 3 boys and my wonderful husband, and they keep us busy here. And I have to tell you, this little Lucas is my youngest, and boy, is he at a fun age. He'll be 2 in a month, and he's our little parrot. He copies all the words that we say, and it is so fun. All right, and you've probably been in contact with one or both of these ladies. Giuliani is my assistant, and she helps me with emails and fixing accounts and helping on that end. And Andrea, she works with our Plus and Premier clients mostly, and she's another trainer just like myself, and so she's able to give that personalized feedback through the Plus package, through the recorded assignments that our Plus members send, and then for the live lessons with our Premier students. So if you're interested in getting more of that direct personalized attention as you're going through the program, then take a look at those Plus and Premier packages, because Andrea is a wonderful, wonderful trainer, and she's been doing a fantastic job with our students. All right, today I'm going to be talking about a proactive focus and a reactive focus. Okay, so let me kind of back up a little bit and tell you where this comes from. So I've been reading a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's actually probably the 2nd or 3rd time I've read it. So I've got this book here with me on my desk, but it's a very popular book. It's one that has been around for a while, and like it shows here, over 25 million copies have been sold. So obviously a lot of people think it's very valuable. But as I read it, I'm not only focusing on how it influences me in my life, but I tend to think about my students a lot as I'm reading books, and how it affects them, and how this can apply to you in your life as you're working on your English pronunciation, and as you're working on building that confidence and improving your circumstance in life, whether it be social or career or both, or kind of what your goals are and how improving your communication affects that. So my thoughts are usually with my students as I'm reading and as I'm studying different topics. And as I was reading and studying this book, there's an idea in this book that I thought was very applicable to my students, and I want to make sure that I want to try and communicate this idea to you and see if it can be helpful. And I hope that it can be helpful for you as you work through this program. Okay, the idea in this book that I want to talk about is a reactive or a proactive focus. Okay, and in the book, what they have. Well, first let's go over the definitions of these. So reactive, and I put in Rudin phonetics there, reactive, that T becomes a D in this reactive. And actually, as I'm looking at it, I'm realizing that doesn't follow our tap T rule, does it? Because there's a C on the one side of it. But when you hear native speakers say it, reactive, it tends to get a little bit more of a D. Like, I do like to say with that tap T rule, though, is that it doesn't have to be a D. Everyone's going to understand you with a T sound, and actually that's more of how British English pronunciation is. So it's absolutely, you can do that. It's very clear and accurate, but with native speakers, a lot of times we change that T to a D. Okay, back to the definition here. So reactive is reacting to problems when they occur instead of doing something to prevent them. Okay, so a reactive focus, if someone has a reactive focus, what they're doing is they're kind of blaming others, or they become more of a victim, have a victim mentality, or they have this kind of a negative attitude about their circumstances or the world's circumstances. There tends to be a lot of worry or fear, and they focus on others' weaknesses. So and this is talking about how this definition of reactive applies to this principle that we're going to be talking about from the 7 habits. Okay, so this is kind of how reactive focus is. Now let's talk about proactive. Pro has that long O, proactive. First syllable stress, proactive. Proactive is acting in anticipation of future problems, needs, or changes. Okay, so we're anticipating those future problems. So proactive focus tends to be a little bit more positive. It's enlarging, and it brings more confidence. You feel empowered, and you're focusing on changing yourself instead of changing others. Okay, so in this book, what Stephen Covey is the author of this book, and what he does is he has these 2 circles, and he describes the circles, the outer circle being the circle of concern. So the circle of concern is what you care about. So things that you care about, okay? And it encompasses the inner circle as well, but things that you care about, okay? These could include and I guess I should say that inner circle, let me kind of talk to what the inner circle is. The inner circle is your circle of influence, and that is what you can do something about. Okay? So the outer circle is your circle of concern, something that you care about, things that you care about. Circle of influence is what you can do something about. So the circle of concern covers everything in that inner circle as well. But the outer circle is things that you care about, but you can't really do anything about, if that makes sense. So that outer circle, as it applies in your situation as you're improving your English skills, that outer circle is things you care about, such as the attitude or the effort of others in kind of that conversational exchange. It's kind of, there's a debate there with people with accents versus a listener. It's like who's responsible in that conversation in making sure that there's good, healthy communication there. Is it the person who is learning English? Do they need to do all the work to make sure that their English is nice and clear and perfect? Or is there some responsibility for the listener to make sure that they're really listening intently and they're putting off any kind of stereotypes or bias or any kind of negative attitudes towards that English language learner? So there's a little bit of a debate of whose responsibility is it. But when we're talking here, our circle of concern are things that we care about, but we can't do much about, is the attitude and the effort that someone else puts into a conversation. Okay, we don't have any control over that. Other things are the perception of others that we're talking to, or how others respond to our accent. These are things that we can't control. Okay, our circle of influence is what you can do something about. So that includes improving your English, getting more education, changing your attitude, or having a positive attitude, or your attitude you have control over. So when it comes to learning English and improving your English, you're focusing on that circle of influence, what you can do something about. Now, in the book, in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, what they're talking about is when you focus on things that you can't control, like that outer circle, what happens is that your circle of influence shrinks. So you're blaming others, and you're becoming more of a victim, and you have kind of a negative attitude, and you're worrying, and you have this fear. And what happens is your circle of influence kind of shrinks. And those things that you have control over tends to shrink, and that's because of that negative, kind of that more negative attitude. Now, proactive people, when you're proactive, it means you're focusing on things that you can control. So your focus is on that inner circle, the circle of influence. So you're focusing on improving your English, getting more education, having a good attitude, or concentrating on your attitude instead of concentrating on someone else's, and building that confidence as you improve your skills. And what happens, and this is something that he talks about in the book, is that as you focus on those things that you do have control over, then what happens is your circle of influence increases. You have more influence on those things that you care about in life. So if you think about it in terms of maybe some of your situations is, okay, so you have this job, and you find, okay, my English is not quite, I need to work on my English, I need to work on my communication skills. And say you're in a position that not necessarily management or anything, but just kind of a position where you go in and you do your job. Well, as you improve your English and you improve those communication skills, what happens is then your skills are such that you can be in some of those management positions, and you can qualify for some of those things that will allow you to have more and more influence on the people around you. Okay, so as we're thinking about this, just think about, and let me get this all up in one place so you can kind of look at it. Is that circle of influence, again, as a review, circle of influence are things that you can control, something that you can do about. And when your focus is on those things that you can control and you have control over, and that tends to be yourself, that you can improve yourself, you can strengthen your own skills, you can control your attitude, you can change your attitude, have a more positive attitude. Those things, as you focus on your circle of influence, what happens is that circle of influence increases, and you'll have more influence over those things in your outer circle, that circle of concern, things that you really care about, and things that you care, just things that you care about. So you'll have more influence on the perception of others, how others respond to you and your accent, and the attitudes and the efforts that others people have around you. So what I love about this concept is it's very empowering. It gives you the control, and you realize, hey, there's a lot of these things that I'm concerned about, but I really can't focus my energy there. I need to focus on my energy on where what I can control. And that's what I love about my students here. And for all of you who are here, you are doing exactly this. You are focusing on those things that you can control, and you're improving yourself and working and being very proactive in what you can control in your circle of influence. And that's what I want you to continue to do, is just say, hey, I don't have any control about my listener. They can do whatever they need to do, but what I can control is what I'm doing. And I need to do everything that I can to in that circle of influence, so that influence can increase. All right, and as that happens, that proactive attitude and focusing on those areas, that is where that success, you will find that success. You'll find that slowly that influence will build, and that natural consequence of that is more and more success, whether it be successful interactions with people, successful, getting a promotion, getting a new job or a better job. That success is a natural consequence of that that focus on that inner circle. All right, so that's kind of what I had for you today, something that I'd been thinking about as it relates to you. And I know that a saying that we say here in English or saying we say in English is I'm preaching to the choir. It means that, you know, you already know this. You're here. You're being proactive about it. But I hope that as people who are listening to this, they can understand the importance of taking that responsibility themselves and making sure that they're being proactive in their efforts to improve their English and bring more success to their lives. All right, so this is the time that I in the webinar where I like to go over questions, specific questions that you have in your English pronunciation and fluency. And so what we'll go ahead and do is, for those of you who are here, go ahead and write in your questions in the questions box and let me know what things that you're struggling with, what you need help with. And what I like to do is, you know, for those who have questions, I like to take the mute off so that I can hear you. So if you're in a situation where you can speak and interact here, I would love to hear from you. So any sounds that you're having a hard time with, any concepts from the Pronunciation Pro course that you just need more clarity on, that's what this time is for. Okay, so I'll give you kind of a minute to write in. Now, some of you are here at the beginning of the program, and I know you're just getting started, so it might be like, I don't really actually know what I need to be, I don't know yet what I don't know, or what I need to be working on, and that's okay. As you go through the course, be sure to, and if you have questions, be sure to come to these webinars, or if you're interested in getting kind of weekly feedback, take a look at the Plus package or the Premier package. Plus package allows you to complete assignments and send those to our trainers so that you can get that personalized feedback. They send recordings back to you. And then the Premier package is when you get that those weekly live lessons. Okay, so let's talk about, let's see. It says, since this is my week one in the program, I don't have too many technical questions now, but questions may come up in the following weeks. My only question is how much time I should spend on practice. Okay, that's a great question, especially there at the beginning, because you get a lot of this information and you're not sure exactly how to practice. Be sure to go over the webinar section, the webinar a couple weeks ago. I talk about exactly how to practice. So I'll go through that a little bit right now. But if you're thinking, okay, I need a little bit more information, I did do at the beginning of the webinar 2 weeks ago, I want to say, we go over kind of 5 steps that I want you to do as you practice. But the key is to watch the videos, and with those worksheets, so watch the videos so that you understand the concept. And then the worksheets and the MP3s are there for you to practice along with. Okay, so how much should you practice depends on those sounds for the week, kind of how uncomfortable it is for you. I usually like to say at least 30 minutes a day. Now, I understand that sometimes is not possible to get every single day, but the more consistent you are in your practice, the faster you'll progress. And that's just kind of how it is. It's kind of like learning to play the piano or swing a golf club, or any of these motor movements. Your mouth is a muscle. It needs to have that repetition, that practice. So if you're in the situation where you're saying the D sound instead of a TH sound, so instead of the, you're saying duh, your mouth has to be retrained in that to get it into that new position, and that just takes repetition. It takes practice. And so as you get into those lessons and you find that, oh, this is really uncomfortable for me to put my mouth in this position, then that requires more practice. So you have to practice and repeat it and go through those worksheets over and over again. Read through them maybe 3 or 4 times and a day, and make sure that your mouth is getting in the correct position. And as you do that consistently, it will get easier and easier, and you don't have to spend as much time practicing it that way. Then you can kind of move into reading other things like news articles or a book in English, and making sure that you're getting those TH sounds in place in those situations. And then it's a matter of moving that into conversation and saying, okay, now I need to focus on it as I'm speaking to others and try and get that in position. Okay, so there's a progression there as you go through and as you practice some of these sounds and these skills. All right, let's see. Let me read through this question real quick before I respond. Okay, so Bikram is saying that he says, I'm using a computer-based, I have to do a computer-based exam called the Pearson academic test, and he's not getting kind of the scores that he needs on his pronunciation and fluency. Do I need an accent when I speak? Now, I think the key in this, and I'm not familiar with that specific exam, but it sounds like with some of these online tests and exams, as they're focusing on your pronunciation and fluency, that's exactly what this course is designed for. Is the test might not be specific to the American accent per se, but there are certain sounds that you have to say correct. Otherwise, it might sound like a different word, or there's just kind of that fluency and that connection that you need to have in English. That, yes, I guess it's associated with an accent and with that, but really, as you go through the course and you're improving your pronunciation, you're getting more of that connection and fluency in your English, then those scores or those marks on those tests tend to get better. Now, if you were to say, okay, I'm going to work on the British accent as to pass this test, you'd probably get good scores as well. So it's not necessarily that it has to be an American accent, but focusing on that, and if that's your end goal is more of an American accent, then I encourage you to do that. So Bikram, I'm gonna unmute you. Bikram, you there?
Yeah.
Hi. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. So what week of the program are you in?
This is my first week.
Oh, okay, so you're just getting started. Okay. So the Pearson academic test, what is the goal with that test? You pass that test for what?
Actually, I'm taking that test for my immigration purpose. I'm in Australia right now.
Okay.
And for that test, there's like 4 sections: speaking, reading, listening, and writing. And when I took the test, I got like my enough marks for the other section, and just for the speaking, I didn't get enough marks. And my fluency was good though, but my pronunciation, because of the pronunciation, I didn't pass the exam.
Oh, okay. And do they have specifically mapped out, here's what in your, does it tell you exactly with your pronunciation why, or it just says pronunciation?
Actually, there are like certain kind of things I need to do for this speaking. Like there's one paragraph I need to read, and for the paragraph, for when I read that paragraph, I think I need to have some certain kind of stress or some maybe some the rhythm or something like that. And maybe in that section I could not get enough marks, because when I read those paragraphs, I need to show some certain kind of kind of my skill to read those paragraphs. So, and there are other sections like I need to describe the diagrams.
Okay.
There's other section like I need to say what speaker says, like the speaker says something, and I need to tell the same thing back to the speakers. So these are the certain sections which are holding me back to get enough marks.
Okay, so as you go through the course, here are a few things that I want you to really pay attention to, because I think they'll make them the biggest impact in that test. So what you'll want to make sure is the R sound in English. I want you to really focus on that R sound and make sure that that's nice and clear. Okay, like you said, the word stress, making sure that that stress or emphasis is appropriate to what you're reading or you're communicating there. And as you go through the course, a lot of what you're learning is how to listen to it. And as you improve those listening skills and understand how those sounds and that rhythm of English work, then you're able to start kind of mimicking it. So you said that you kind of have to match what the other person says as part of the test. Well, that's part that's going to improve as you improve your listening skills, because you'll know how to match that better because you'll be hearing it more clearly. Okay?
Yeah.
So those are the areas that I think will be most helpful for you as you go through the course. Focus on those areas, and I think that will help you improve for that test. Okay?
Yep.
All right, good. Thank you for the question.
No worries.
All right, let's see. Let me read through this question real quick. Okay, so we have a question, and I'm so sorry for if I mispronounce names, but Tianye is asking, what do you think is the best way to change my accent? So this person's been in Canada for 5 years, but thinking that they still need to improve their spoken English. So they got high enough scores on the GRE, so that's not a problem. And I see so do I have any suggestions for this? Yeah, so Canada, and there's a few differences in the Canadian accent versus the American accent, but it's very, very similar. And so what you're hearing there and what the accent that you're hearing there in Canada is essentially what we're teaching in this course as well. And if you're not exactly sure, and I think this is where a lot of our students come into the program, is they think, okay, I think I need to work on my accent. I'm feeling like my English is good. I've gotten high enough scores on these tests. I've been able to communicate okay, but I think that there's something in my pronunciation and fluency that is causing problems. And for many of you, you might know exactly what it is, but for some of you, you might know exactly what it is, but for a lot of you, I know that there's a problem, but I'm not sure exactly what the problem is. Here's what I want you to do as you go through the course. It'll be important for you to get feedback, okay, from our trainers. Now, right now, we're offering, and if you're in that first week of the program, even if you're past the first week but didn't get that week 1 feedback, we're offering as a bonus for when you sign up for the basic package to get feedback for that week 1 assignment. Okay, so you can get feedback and see exactly what it is that you're doing, because what we do for the week 1 feedback is we give you feedback about the week 1 assignment, but then we also say, and here are some other things that I want, you'll need to focus on as you go through the course. And so that's very helpful. I say right now we're doing that bonus because in about a month we're changing the website and we're changing a few things, and so that actually we're not going to be able to offer that anymore. But there's also a way to get feedback through the Plus package. So the Plus package is an incredible way to get feedback because you get a full accent assessment, and then every week of the program you submit assignments to our trainers, and they send you a recording back saying, okay, you did this correct, you did not do this correct, and it gives you a very clear idea of exactly what you're needing to change. Okay, so a lot of the confusion or the lack of confidence in your spoken English, in your accent and things, a lot of that comes because you're just not sure what it is that you're doing wrong or what you might be doing different. And through this course, and I've seen students do incredibly well as they go through the basic package and watch the videos, and then they see kind of the difference in how they're saying things and other things, and they're able to figure that out along the way. But if you find that you're still struggling to figure out exactly what you're doing wrong, then I encourage you to get more of that feedback, because that's very, very helpful. All right. So Kansu, let's see. She says, hi, Annie, or they say, hi, Annie, and everybody. So hello to everyone. I was struggling to speak in English. I found Pronunciation Pro, and now I say that I have a job. Oh, I have a job by courtesy of the program. But the next step is to get very high scores on the TOEFL. So, okay, so that's wonderful news. Congratulations on getting the job. And I'm so glad that Pronunciation Pro could help you in that process. That's wonderful. Oh, I love hearing that kind of stuff. That's so fun. That's the goal of what we're doing here, is to make sure that we give you what you need so that you can find that success. That's wonderful news. So the next step for is to get higher scores for the TOEFL. So what is your suggestions for the ESL test, continuing to study, and do I have to do something different? Okay, so Kansu, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Kansu, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, congratulations on the job.
Thank
That's
you
wonderful.
so much. Thank you for everything.
You're very welcome. I'm so happy to hear that. That's wonderful. Okay, so now your next step, and I love this, you're being proactive because you're thinking, okay, I got this job. Now my next step is this. And so you're always reaching for the next. Yeah, it's never good enough, right? That's why I find my students are like the most successful people, because they are always pushing themselves. They're always working to improve. Okay, so it's the TOEFL is your next challenge, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
great.
That's correct.
Great. So let's see. So have you taken the TOEFL exam yet?
Yeah, before, actually, more or less 8 months ago, and the score was more, yes, 70 points or 120 points, and actually I have to get at least 100 points of TOEFL.
Okay. And was it specific as far as your scores? Because I have some students who say I've gotten high enough scores on everything except the fluency part, or the speaking section. Or are there certain areas that you're thinking, okay, I need to improve in this area and this area?
Actually, most likely I'm struggling on reading section.
Oh, okay. So the reading section.
I'm always out of time on reading section.
Okay. So here's what I have as far as the pronunciation course. If it's the fluency in that speaking section, that I'm good at helping with that. With some of the other sections, what I like to do is refer my students onto a woman named Jamie Miller, and she has an online course, and I can even just write her name in here. So Jamie Miller. Jamie Miller, I think it's just jamiemiller.com. But if you Google Jamie Miller TOEFL, then you'll be able to find her. And she does an online program similar to mine, where everything's done online. You have resources, you have videos, you have all this instruction, and she is very good at knowing how to get good scores on TOEFL.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna refer you on to her, because she has a lot more of the expertise in that area. But as far as the pronunciation and the fluency side of things, if you're thinking, okay, I've gone through the course, but I need some extra help, doing some live lessons, or we can set up something where you send in some recordings, and we do a similar to what the Plus package is, but because you've already gone through the course, we can do it a little bit more customized. And you can send in recordings, and then we can get feedback and things like that. So there are a few options there. And so if you're interested in that, kind of getting more feedback and more instruction there, personalized help, then now, did you go through the basic package or the Plus?
I'm in basic package.
You went through the basic. Okay. So yeah, the next step would be then let's get more feedback and get more exact on exactly what you need. You know, if there are any other lingering things that you need to refine, then that's the help we can give. But for the other sections of the TOEFL exam, go talk to Jamie.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the suggestion. Actually, I'm in the last week right now, and also, is this my last webinar or not?
Okay, so when you're in the basic membership, yeah, so this is something that with the basic membership, that monthly fee will continue until you request to cancel it. After you cancel your membership, then you won't have access to webinars and things like that. But if you are thinking, okay, now I want some additional help, either feedback or I want to get a yearly membership, then you can kind of purchase that and get a whole nother year's access. And then you can attend the webinars and things. But as long as you have that active monthly membership, then you can attend all of these.
Okay, got it. Thank you for everything.
You're very welcome.
Enormous helping.
Well, congratulations. I'm very happy for your success, and I'm glad that we could help with that success. That's great.
Thank you so much.
All right. I guess another thing I should mention too is that starting at the end of June, I'm going to have the Alumni Course. And what the Alumni Course is after you finish the 12-week program, I found that it's like, okay, I've done the 12-week program, but I still need to practice. There's still other things that my students need to learn and improve on when it comes to their communication skills. And so what I've done is I'm starting this alumni course, and it's for anyone who has an active membership to the website. So if you are a basic member with the basic monthly member and have the reoccurring monthly payments, just keep those recurring monthly payments and you'll get access to the alumni course. If you have any of our yearly packages, so the basic yearly, the plus, the premier, this alumni course is going to be included in those. Okay, so after you finish week 12, then you'll start on week 13 and 14. So unfortunately, it won't be ready until the end of June. But if you're an active member at that point, and if you've already gone through the 12-week course, then once it starts, then you'll get access to the first lesson for the alumni course. And it's similar to how the program has been set up now, where every week you get then new material. And the alumni course is set up where it's a shorter weekly lesson, maybe 5 or 10 minutes long. And then I give you material to practice, and I give you some kind of helpful resources to help you improve. So that's what the alumni course is. So for you, Kansu, if you are thinking, okay, I would like to have access to that alumni course, and you're thinking, okay, I'd like to have access to the webinars as well, you can either keep your monthly membership going, or you can go ahead and buy the basic yearly membership. Or if we're going to do a more customized feedback option, then you just email me and we'll figure something out. All right. Okay. Yachan, let's see. One more question. The feedback is in audio file or written document? Both, actually. So with the Plus package, what happens is you send in a recording of your weekly assignment. And what we do is we have a PDF file that we make notes on. So we're underlining things and we're writing on it, and as we're listening to the recordings. And then we record an audio of ourselves saying, all right, let's go through the assignment. Here, in the first paragraph, here's some of the things that I noticed incorrect. You were doing this and it needs to be this. And then in the second paragraph, here are some of the things I noticed. In the conversational sample, here's what I noticed. And, it's all written out there, but we're also talking through it, because obviously you need to be able to hear what it's supposed to sound like. So both audio and written feedback for that. All right, Daniel, can you distinguish the main difficulties of the students according to their first language? Yes. Is there any relationship between kind of the difficulties they have in their first language? And he says, because I guess there are several common mistakes according to the first language, and from my point of view, should be nice to work on this weakness accordingly. Yes. So Daniel, this is something that this is how the Pronunciation Pro course was organized. Now, I had been teaching students live, so I was doing live lessons, and for students from all over the world. So number of different native languages, just all sorts of different native languages that I was working with. And what I found was no matter what their native language is, there were certain things that people just tended to struggle with. Final consonant deletion, those tap T, there were then obviously the rhythm, the word stress, sentence stress, intonation, all of these things were very common to every language. So I made sure that we mapped out in the course those very, very common, the most common problems for any language. Now, what I want you to do based on your first language is there's certain things. So like with our Spanish speakers, we have the B and the V, okay, B and V confusion. And with a lot of my, I think it's Indian students, the V and F are very hard to distinguish. So what I've done is I've have those bonus lessons there for you. And say you're in week 3 on R's, and you're thinking, I don't really need, or week 3 is L's and N's, and you're thinking, I don't really have a problem with L's and N's. What you do is you substitute the L's and N's and go look at the bonus lessons and find those. Now, that's something that I know that I need to improve with the site, is for me to be able to write in there and say, okay, if you don't have a problem with this, go to the bonus lessons for this. And that's why with the week 1 feedback, that's where we like to give that feedback to say, here are the areas that you really need to focus on in your pronunciation, so that you know to go over to those bonus lessons and take a look there. So you're absolutely right. There are specifics to your first language, and we're actually working on getting kind of a document in place so that based on what your first language is, we can send something to you saying, here are common mistakes for people who have the same native language, because there are a lot of predictable patterns that happen there. And so as we continue to improve the program, that's something that's there. But in the meantime, that's why we have the feedback, that bonus feedback in the week 1 within the week 1 lesson, no matter which package you buy. All right, Madav, let's see. I don't have any problem understanding you. I feel like I'm a native listener, but there are subtle words that I have a hard time distinguishing. How can I practice listening to them? Okay, Madav, I'm going to actually unmute you. Let's talk about this a little bit. So there are subtle words. Madav, you there?
Yes.
Hello.
I'm listening to you. Hello.
Okay, great.
Nice to talk to you.
So there's subtle words that you have a hard time distinguishing as native English speakers are speaking, or while you're speaking.
Well, the particular words, not on the sentence, just a particular words like meet, M-I-T-T.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know that there's a different pronunciation for M-I-T-T meet and M-E-E-T meet and M-E-E-T meet.
Oh, okay. So in the way that you say it, so it's not
how do I listen those?
So are you talking about how you're listening to others in that situation, or how you're saying them yourself, or both?
Both.
Yeah, both.
Since I can't listen the distant difference, I can't pronounce them.
Okay, so here's my advice on those, is that, let me change over here to my, so you have already identified words that you're thinking, okay, I don't hear the difference between these.
There are a lot.
Right?
I just figured out that there are a lot.
Okay, So
And it's particularly vowels for me.
Yes. So one thing that I definitely, here's a strategy that I want you to do. So tell me those, we got a little friend here today.
Yeah.
So
yeah, please, I'm sorry.
oh, that's fine. So tell me those specific words. So let me back up and kind of tell you the strategy, and then we'll specifically work on these. So as you go through the course and you're listening and you're improving your listening skills, this will happen more and more where you, here, I'm going to go ahead and unmute I'm going to mute you here as I explain this so I can make sure that we can hear everything. But, okay, so as you are going through the program and improving your listening skills, you're going to hear these words pop up more and more. You're thinking, I can't hear the difference between those. In weeks, you're referring to more of the vowels of English, and those are, we address the vowels in weeks 5 through 7, and specifically in week 7 we talk about the short vowels, and the short vowels are tricky because they sound very, very similar to each other. So things like words like mit, meat, I guess E is more of a long vowel, mat, mott, that's not really a word, but mutt. Okay, we have all of these sounds that are very similar to each other. And what you want to do is, if you find, okay, the mott and mutt, I have a hard time hearing or saying the difference between those, then you want to, and what we do in the listening exercises with those is we contrast those. Okay, so what you're going to do is do mott, mutt. And I'll unmute you here in a minute so I can hear you actually say these. Mit, mutt, mat, mutt. And you contrast those, and you want to contrast and see if you can both hear when somebody else is saying it, and someone else can hear the difference when you're saying it. And first it starts with hearing the difference. So that's why we do in the listening quizzes, we do that contrast, and I say a word and you're supposed to tell me which word I'm saying which word I'm saying. That's strengthening your listening skills. And even if you have to do it over and over and over again before you start hearing it, that's something to be done. So that's something you can do to practice. So let me unmute you again. All right, Madhav, you there? Madhav? Okay, let's see, I don't hear you. I'll keep you unmuted in case you come back. Is there anybody else that wants to contrast these or try saying some of these? If so, go ahead, and there's like a raised hand icon that you can put up there, and it shows me that you're wanting to volunteer for this. But what I'm wanting to contrast here is both me being able to say one of these words and you tell me which word I'm saying, and then the other is, and so that you can improve that listening and hear the difference there. The other one is then you being able to say it and I can tell you which one you're saying. Okay. No volunteers? Oh, okay, there it is. All right, Tianyi, let's have you. And Madhav, I have you unmuted, but I'm not hearing you. So I think you might have muted your computer or something. So we'll come back to you. But Tianyi, you there?
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Hello.
Great. So what
Nice
is
to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. What's your native language?
It's a Mandarin.
Mandarin. Okay.
It's a Chinese, yeah, Mandarin.
Okay, great. So so we're going to go through some of these words, and I want to hear the difference. See if you can hear the difference, and then we're going to say the difference, okay? So in this first word here, these first two words, you're going to tell me either the first word or the second word that I'm saying, okay?
Okay, yeah.
All right. And I'm going to cover my mouth because sometimes that can give it away. Mutt, mutt, mutt.
The second one.
Good. So I'm going to contrast. So here's something that you can do, and you can have, if you have a native speaking friend or something like that that can kind of help you, this is what you would have them do, is after they say one of them, whether you get it right or wrong, I want you to them to contrast it. So that they would say mott, mutt, mott, mutt, mott, mutt. And by saying the words right next to each other, then it gives that direct contrast where you can hear, okay, one word, next word, one word, next word, and be able to hear them right next to each other to see what the difference is or hear what the difference is. Okay, let's try the next one. So, mitt, mitt, mitt.
It's the first one.
Good. Okay, so
Meat.
mitt. Yep. So mitt, mutt, mitt, mutt. All right, let's do, I actually want to do that one too. Okay, so for the third one here, how about this one? Mat, mat, mat.
It's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Mat.
Mat, mat. Okay.
Mat.
Then contrast. Mat, mutt, mat, mutt, mat, mutt. Okay. So for all of you who are listening, I want you to really be listening for that and see if you can hear that difference. Okay. So how about this one? And I'll have you say these here in a minute, but how about this last one? Meat, 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 meat.
It's the second one. The meat.
Good, good. So that's that long
It has like two P's.
Yeah. So the short, the first one is mitt. So let me contrast then. Mitt, meat, mitt, meat, mitt, meat. All right. And in week 6 of the program, you go over these specific sounds alone. So the short I and the long E are very frequently mistaken for each other. So we'll talk about those in detail on that week. So I want you to go through and say these for me. So I want you to say mott, mutt.
Mott, mutt.
Good. How about the next one?
Mott, mutt. Meat, mutt.
Okay, so what I'm hearing,
mutt.
instead of mitt, I'm hearing more meat.
Oh.
Okay, so
mitt.
Mitt.
Yes.
Mitt,
mutt.
Mm-hmm.
Mitt, mutt.
Good. Now, how about this one?
Might, mutt. Might, mutt.
Mm-hmm. Now, how about this one?
Meat, meat. Meat, meat.
Good.
Meat, meat.
Exactly. Good. So as far for you, that short I and that long E, I want you to pay attention to that because that might be something that you're confusing.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for volunteering. Appreciate it. All right, Madav, I still am not able to hear you, unfortunately, even though I have you unmuted. So if you happen to figure that out.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are. Good. Good, I hear you.
Oh, I've unmuted myself. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so here's, were you listening through that exercise where we kind of contrasted the two next to each other?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so I want to hear you say them, okay?
Okay.
So go through the first one. So go it again.
Mutt, mutt.
Okay, so those ones are sounding the same to me. So what we want to do is get the short ah. Ma, ma.
Mutt, mutt.
So that the difference is getting that ah, ah. We drop your jaw, it's more hollow inside. Ah.
Mutt,
Mott.
mutt.
And then mutt was exactly what you were doing before. So mutt was good. It was mott that needed to change. Mott.
Mutt. Mutt, mutt.
Okay, so let's do the next one.
Met, mutt. Mat, mutt.
Good. Next one.
Met, meat.
Good. Okay, I'm going to do this. How about this one?
Met, mut,
Mutt. Mutt. Good. There you go. Met, mutt. Good. So the one that I would say concentrate on that ah. Because I think that's the sound that's probably getting confused. So if you're thinking hot and hut sound very similar to each other, it's probably because of that ah sound.
Hot, hot.
Yes. It's very subtle. The difference is very subtle, but it's there.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other words that you're thinking, oh yeah, I always have,
For example, hot. How about H-E-R-T, hot?
H-U-R-T, hurt.
Yeah, that one.
Hurt. So then hot.
Hurt.
So the hurt has hurt. Yeah, so it's more in that sound. Hurt. And if you're having a hard time distinguishing it from hot, it means that you're not getting that tongue engaged for the R sound enough. Hot has the tongue just flat against the bottom of the mouth. Hot. Hurt has that R pulled back, that tongue pulled back. Her.
The blending R.
Hurt.
Let me try once. The last one. Hot. Did I get that right?
More R. Do that again.
Hot.
Her. Say her for me. So.
Hot.
There you go.
Oh God.
So if you have to break apart the word, so if you're having a hard time getting like a middle sound in a word, break the word down. So instead of trying to say hurt, say her, and get that, and then put the T. Her.
Hurt. Hurt.
There you go.
Good.
So when you kind of break it apart, you're able to get that tongue where it needs to be before the ending sound gets on there. All right.
Okay.
Try that strategy, and with the R's, those short ah sounds, I think that's where you want to focus. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks
Madhav.
so much.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's all the questions that I have here written, which is perfect because it's right on time here. So let's do this. Let me see. So just to recap for the day, we were talking a lot about kind of being proactive in your English learning, and you're here, you're at the webinar, you're listening to this webinar, so you're obviously being very proactive about your English language development. So congratulations to you. I'm very, very proud of you for what you're doing right now. And being proactive and focusing on that circle of influence where you have control and where you can build that confidence. And when you focus on that inner circle, that circle of influence, then you really can expand your circle of influence and have more influence on those around you. And I'm thrilled to hear from you today and your questions, and I hope this was helpful for you. And I hope to see you at the next webinar. Be sure to register. You can go on the Pronunciation Pro website and register for the next webinar. We have the dates and times listed there. And bring your questions, and if you have questions beforehand, please email them to me, because when you do have when I have questions emailed to me, I have more of a chance to gather materials and maybe even put together a little lesson or something for that question. So it's just more helpful. It's helpful just to get more resources involved. So thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your questions, appreciate your involvement, And keep practicing, keep working through the program, and let us know if you need any help or assistance or wanting more feedback as you go through the course. All right, thanks. Have a good one.